Okay.
Welcome to the Water Pollution Control Authority meeting. This monthly meeting on Wednesday, April 21st, 2021. We have Ron, Christian, Joe, and myself.
What am I sharing it with?
So we have an agenda that's been published. I'm going to motion that we, on old business, we had discussion A with the Carrick's Drive neighbors. Joe and myself and Ron and Chris had a call set up for 3 o'clock today to kind of streamline that discussion. That call did not take place. So I'm going to suggest that we move that behind item D so we do not hold up the professionals on items B, C, and D. Is there a second? Second from Christian, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's continue. First order of business is the approval of the March 17th, 2021 meeting minutes. Comments or questions?
Just have a quick thing for housekeeping. Couple of words under on the second page under C. It's the last full sentence at the bottom of that paragraph. It says holding tanks, pumps, and it should say ancillaries, not accelerates. I think that's the word that came out of my mouth, but that wasn't the right word.
All right, duly noted.
All right, and then under F, discussions on funding engineering agreement for the WWTP upgrade. On the third sentence down, it says waterfront. That should be water fund. Water fund.
Yes. Good catch.
That's
we
all
want
I
a
have.
clean waterfront as well, but
That's one leads to the other.
So is there a motion to approve as amended?
I'll make a
Christian.
motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Oh, second.
I'll second.
Second from Joe, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Matt, welcome. Good to have you.
Thanks, Mark. Sorry I'm late.
No worries. Okay, I just want to comment on those minutes. I thought they were outstanding, and I want to thank Joe and Sheila and Chris. A lot of content. We have. I should mention we have a lot of content to cover tonight as well. Okay, moving to new business. Item A, we have continuation from last month. This month is to consider an act upon a request relative to 1 and 59 Post Road. I thought I saw Joe Pereira here before. Is he here?
He's
Yep.
Yeah, I'm here, Chairman.
Okay, great. Chris, do you want to introduce this and let us know how this is modified a bit?
Yeah, so they submitted a new site plan based on, some discussions that we had. They've moved the building forward out of the easement area, which benefits, all parties. We won't have to relocate this line around their building and so forth. They've also provided, and Joe can elaborate on this, the flow data for this proposed daycare, which, we went through, and I worked with Keith Buda, which is one of his partners, on this to come up with some figures. So, Joe, I don't know if you want to take it from there.
Yeah, I could. Thanks. So let's see. We were here previously for an apartment project, and here now for this daycare. In the end, we have a net reduction in the flow that we had previously been approved for. So we are looking to increase the flow in the existing main by 0.09%. So very, very little increase. When we have apartments, we're at 0.24% increase. So again, a net reduction from what we had previously. In essence, very little impact, if any, on the existing trunk line. At the end of the day, it comes out to be about 4,700 gallons per day net increase.
Chairman?
Yes.
It's Ray Rizzio. We had talked last time. I
Ray Rizzio,
appreciate you
yes.
giving us the effort. So I'm a principal and the attorney on the matter.
Yep.
And we managed to move the building forward, which, like I said, hopefully will benefit everyone in that
Yep.
you will not have to, we won't have to, you could basically repair or replace the line in place.
Yep.
And we're going to forego building the apartments with the amount of apartments being built in town right now. So we thought we have a great tenant, Strong Start, who's been very successful in both Trumbull and Shelton, and thinks they will be very successful at this location. And we're going to build them a built-to-suit building at that location, with hopefully with your approval. And as I said, this is a net reduction from the previous approval of the for the 20 apartments. So
Yeah. I'll say on behalf of the commission, we appreciate your flexibility and how quickly you were able to make that modification. So many thanks.
welcome.
Any comments, questions from the commission? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for the commission to accept the plan number 18 for the project at 1 and 59 Post Road as submitted on, and the date I haven't heard, for the daycare center. The approval will be in effect for 2 years with the understanding that the permit is not issued. If a permit is not issued within the 2-year period, the applicant will submit a request to the commission for a subsequent 2-year renewal. The signing of the building permit by the WPCA staff shall be subject to the payment of the I&I fee calculated at the current rate at the time of the building permit.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And from Matt,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Looks to be
Thank you very
unanimous.
much. We hope to get this project underway right away. So thanks again
We
for your
hope so, too.
time and cooperation.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is the discussion on the RFP results for the East Trunk Sewer Project testing. A bit of a preview on this. We're approving the funding. We're not making the decision on of the 3 RFP responses. That will be made by the purchasing department in consultation with the WPCA. I suspect they'll go to the low bidder, but that's in the range of 27,000, where the other 2 bids were around 46,000. This is, I want to remind everyone, the interceptor line that is a critically important project for us to get the I&I out of the river, and this is the logical next step, the soil testing, prior to going forward with the $7 million plus plan that we've been discussing now for a few years. Any comments or questions on the RFP?
I just want to add something to that. So in this cost that was done, it was decided that we would not include the police protection for this. So the cost that we're going to approve is only for the physical work for the environmental testing. We should probably, if we're going to add, we're going to add this in, we should add probably another, I would say $4,000 on top of it for police protection, just to be safe. So if we were going to go with tie and bond, that would be $32,500.
Okay. So we need
Chris,
to
can you
approve
just
funding.
explain?
Christian,
Chris,
please.
can you just explain that the police protection quickly?
Yeah, because they have to do borings in the roadway. So there's I think we what did we propose? 35 borings in the roadway. So those, we have to have police protection. We can do it in-house with flaggers, but I don't know what the actual cost is for the flagger. And I want to say it's probably, I think, $400 a day for 2 flaggers. So we're not exactly sure how long this is going to take, but I would rather have enough in the funding to go through one time than have to go back again for more. So,
Thank you.
Chris, two things. That's an extremely busy road. So we may want police on that one.
right.
And also, I mean, if we're
just-
gonna do that, we
yeah.
might as well just round it up to 35,000.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And it was, yeah, so Bill's right. There's an extremely busy road over there, Grassmere Avenue. We would need police protection on that road, but the side streets, we could probably get away with flaggers. So, to save a little bit of funding, but the main road, we would definitely need, a police protection on.
Yeah, it's for more protection because usually the police have their cruisers with the lights, so.
Right. Yeah.
Chris, who makes the decision whether it's flaggers or police control? Just,
The town can make it. We can distinguish. For instance,
Okay.
we used flaggers in certain sections on Eastern Turnpike for the pump station project. So, yeah, we worked with the police department on that.
And the hardening project.
Yes.
Okay, so it sounds like we need a motion to approve $35,000 in funding for the RFP process.
Just one question on it. Did we, I didn't see the RFP. Did we specify how many samples and what type and all that kind of stuff? Or was that just based on I'm seeing a lot of variance in the number of samples and lab analysis. It's just they're trying to compare these proposals is not apples to apples.
Yep.
No, we did. We proposed the amount of samples based on the length of the project and how often we would need them. So,
Okay.
For instance, in the area that we're concerned with, which is down towards Kenwood Avenue, we're going to go every 50-foot increment, and then throughout the neighborhood, it changes to 100-foot. So, and that
Okay.
was decided internally, but we referenced with an LEP on this. So.
Okay. Because yeah, I mean,
to answer
obviously.
the second question. Yeah.
Oh, God.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, obviously, if tie-in bonds it meets what we're asking for, then yes, that's the best one. But I just wasn't sure whether or not that they're providing the right number of samples. So.
Right, exactly. So yeah, and in each one we gave them the specific parameters that we need for the testing. So
Okay.
each one was consistent with the same the same bid. So
Okay, good. Thank you.
yeah.
Is there a motion?
yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve up to 28,500 for tie-in bond to provide environmental testing for the East Trunk Sewer project. And in addition, I would like to provide an additional $6.5 thousand for traffic control, that money being being controlled by the town.
Chris and Bill, does that get you what you need? Sounds
Yeah.
like it.
I
Okay.
think so.
I'm sorry, was there a second on that? I jumped ahead.
For a second.
I'll second that.
Second from Christian. All in favor? Aye, unanimous. Item C is a discussion on the wastewater treatment plant transformer replacement. Joe and I had the pleasure of seeing that today. It is leaking. Bill, walk us through this.
It's
If you
the,
would, sir.
we have a 1500 kVA transformer outside of our administration building. It's one of three that we have on site. It handles all of our administration building, our influent pumps, primary tanks, and some other SCADA system, a bunch of other equipment. Previously, we've seen some look like oil residual underneath the transformer in past years, and it didn't really amount to much and dried up. So we just figured maybe there was a little pressure buildup, a little pressure relief from the internal pressure relief valve. This year, it doesn't seem to be stopping, so we had someone come in and check it out. We're monitoring very closely, temperature-wise and level-wise. There's roughly about 400 gallons of oil in that transformer, and the amount that we see on the ground is nominal to that gallon or so, leaking there. But the leak seems to be more consistent now. Once we had it looked at and we saw the report from Sullivan about a catastrophic failure, that really got us going, looking at this harder. And then we got the cost proposal to replace it from Yankee Electric, and we thought it better to do this as quick as possible so that we don't have a catastrophic failure.
What's the next step on this? Is this getting bids on the transformer?
No, the Yankee quote has a transformer in it that they said that for the 51,460 for replacement. Originally, I was going to go through all the boards now, but I've already gone ahead and put an emergency purchase in to just make it look better that I have the board's approval to go ahead with it.
Gotcha.
And also the other thing that sticks out is this is a new remanufactured transformer as opposed to a new one. The new one only comes with a 1-year warranty, and the new remanufactured one comes with a 3-year warranty. It kind of doesn't really make sense, but that's the way it's happening with this electrical transformer.
Okay.
And Bill, you're proposing that you pay for it out of department funds and then we reimburse you?
Well, I talked to Caitlin about that. It'll more than likely come out of department funds. And then at the end of the year, that one line item will probably go negative. And then it'll probably be funded by the fund balance.
Okay, I just want to know that for the motion.
Yep.
Comments, questions?
If that's only if the entire our entire budget goes negative, but I don't foresee that. But if it does, whatever we're negative will come out of the fund balance.
Your motion?
Bill, can't we just fund it directly without going through your department budget if we just approve it tonight? Out of
I
our
think-
funds balance, or does that have to go to somebody else?
I think if we go through the fund balance, we want it directly through the fund balance. I think we'd have to go through all the boards.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. So what does the motion sound like? Motion to approve $51,460 through your operating budget?
Yep.
Okay,
For the purchase of this transformer.
for the purchase of it, okay. Is there a second to that? Second by, saw Matt's hand first. All in favor?
I didn't even hear the motion. Wow.
Consider and act upon the proposed fog ordinance is our next item. Chris, walk us through this.
No, go ahead.
Now, this kind of came on our radar recently when the audit was done, pointing out some things that we needed to correct on the fog side.
Correct. So, yes, like you said, this is transpired from the fog audit that's been done. We need to come up with a fog ordinance to have some enforcement against these violations that for fog purposes that we are not able to track at this time. So what we did was we did some research amongst other towns and came up with this fog ordinance that has to be approved by the commission and then passed by the boards for final approval. What we did was, and one of the things, there's a lot of enforcement in here, failure to comply, restaurants that don't, maintain their equipment properly and so forth. Our initial application fee is $100 at this time. We're proposing to increase that to $150. We found that, by doing research amongst other towns, we are low compared to, several municipalities. So that's one change. We can take the violations, they range anywhere from 250 to 500 for certain ones. Each one that has a dash between it is, something that we can modify, but we wanted to get it out to the commission to review and, potentially make a motion, and we can move forward on this. So we have what they call a self-reporting system for the fog. We're, I guess at this time, going to probably try to look at maybe doing some in-person inspections, and once we have this in place, to be able to have some enforcement.
So Chris, when you say
Anybody
the
has any questions?
self-reporting works for about 80% plus or minus
Correct.
of the businesses in town, so it's really catching
Yeah.
the 20 that are not reporting, 20%.
Right, exactly.
Chris, in the ordinance, do we need any teeth in the ordinance to try to get that other 20% in compliance? I didn't see much in there.
Well, it's finable. So that's what the main thing is. If they do not comply, it is finable. So, for instance, there's a late fee of $25 per month. So, we've had restaurants now for months and months that are not compliant. It is also in our, I don't know if it's in here. I think it might be. But we do have a regulation that we can contact the police department, and it is finable through the police department as well. I don't know if it's in this. It might have to be written into it. But it is in our regular sewer regulation that it is enforceable by the police department.
Okay, but is $25 a month enough to cause a restaurant to conform, or should that be a higher number?
Well, the thought was that at this time, a lot of these restaurants are struggling, so we didn't want to kind of overburden them, but we want them to comply. So, $25 a month, we can go up as high as we want. That's the thing, at this time. But with that being said, we didn't want to overburden these restaurants with, a significant fine. Some of them are not open, so they might not be complying at that point either. So, if they're not open and they're not regulating, right, then they're not regulating grease and so forth. So, it wouldn't be enforceable.
Right. So I would propose that we raise it to $100 a month. I don't know what the other towns and municipalities are doing, but are we low in that regard? It seems like a low number. That's all I'm saying.
Right, and we've had the $25 in the past. That's why we kept it like that. So, but we can definitely up it to 100 or whatever we would like.
For the commission purposes, I'd like to recommend, if we're going to change the ordinance, I'd like to recommend a fine of $100 for that 20% that's not complying. Maybe we'll get up to comply.
We want to add a start date on this where it's, instead of right in the middle of this virus going through, it's set it to be as of September 1st or as of whatever.
Yeah, we could. Yep, we could definitely put a start date on there.
What does everybody else think?
I mean, the only other one that I have an opinion on is the source of sewer blockage. That seems way low considering that's the most drastic violation I guess they could have. I mean, if they have insufficient grease traps that are causing a sewer blockage, that's not just impacting the restaurant, it's impacting everyone. I would think that should be a pretty substantial fine.
I agree.
Yeah, we had it ranged from other municipalities from $500 to $1,000. So.
Oh, okay. Then even my 100 is low then.
Right. Paul had a question?
It must be muted.
Unmute yourself.
You got to unmute. No, I don't have him muted.
He's muted himself, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we hear you?
I'm not sure it's a public discussion item in any event.
Yeah, I don't know if I can't hear him.
Okay.
Chris, I thought somewhere else said it that if you could trace it back to the particular restaurant, they would be responsible for all damages that it
They would.
caused.
Okay.
Right, exactly. That was, I think that was part of the blockage.
Right, but that's more, we're talking about trying to bring this 20% into compliance with this fine, not damages. I'm sure we can always recover damages if we felt it was significant.
Right.
Why don't I suggest the following? We're not going to implement this in the next month or so in any event. Why don't we bring it back next month? Chris, why don't you collect comments from the commission?
Yeah.
And we'll modify it that way.
All right, so Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to take
Paul's got
item
a note
D.
up there.
Okay, we have our first write-in comment.
About,
First. Okay,
25 for the first infraction,
yeah.
and then 250 every
We'll do
month after that.
Send that to Chris Rogers, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to move the item D to consider an act on the proposed fog ordinance to a date certain of next month's meeting.
Okay.
I'll
Second
second
from Matt. All in favor?
Need a second. I didn't hear a second, but.
I second it,
Second
Jeff.
from Matt. Okay, some good comments there. We'll get those incorporated. Both verbal and write-in. That's a first. I love it. Sewer use adjustments. There's 3. Chris, do we need to approve these, or this just for information purposes only? They're about $1,000 each.
Yeah, because they're over $1,000, we have to bring them to the commission. So, I don't know if you want to make one motion to approve them all, but I can give you a brief overview unless you've already reviewed them.
They seem pretty straightforward. Are there any questions on the 3?
No.
Water leaks?
Well, Chris, did you happen to see repair bills for all of them?
Yes, each one has a backup from Aquarian for the adjustments that were done. So some of them were misinterpreted from Aquarian. So, yeah.
Their motion?
Do we need a motion here?
I think the
Chris, do we need a
department's
motion
asking
on
for
these?
approval.
You've approved them at the staff level, right?
We've approved them at the staff level, but we wanted to bring it to your attention. So, yeah.
That's right, but do you need a motion from us?
No, I don't. If you want to make a motion to approve the sewer adjustments, I don't see it being,
Yeah, I don't see it being needed.
Okay.
No motion needed. Very well. All right, last item on this section, discussion on the transition between departments for the sewer inspector. As Chris Rogers. So those who don't know, Chris will be transitioning over to the town planning and zoning department, leaving a gaping hole in the WPCA. Chris does quite a bit, as we know. Joe and I had a meeting with Chris and Bill today to kind of review some of the responsibilities that might be transitioned into. Chris is effectively going to be replaced by 2 people, hopefully sooner rather than later. One in engineering and one in the department. Obviously, we have quite a bit going on in both the day-to-day business, the projects that are coming in for development, new policy, and a whole host of new infrastructure projects. So it's imperative that we get those positions filled as quickly as possible. I've asked for Nancy's help in moving that along as recently as about an hour ago. Chris, we think the world of you. You know,
Thank you.
what
Thank you.
you do in both the office and in the field, and getting these meetings set up has been phenomenal.
Yeah, like I said, I'll still be around. You know, we'll work through this transition, try to make it as smooth as possible. So, but I appreciate everything you guys have done as well.
So can we reject Chris's transfer?
Yeah,
Of course. Of course.
I wish. It's not an option. Not an option. He's been 4 months in this process, so.
Would you like a
planning on
motion,
going,
Mr.
so-
Chairman?
Sir,
I can make a motion, we reject his transfer.
yeah,
See what that does.
yeah, see what that gets us. Okay. Any comments or questions on that?
Best of
Good
luck
luck
in
to
your new
Chris.
role.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Stay with us
Thank
for
you.
a bit. We
Thank
need
you.
you.
Yep.
I
Thank
will.
you, Chris.
I'll be
I
around.
appreciate everything.
Yeah. Thank
Good
you,
luck,
guys.
Chris.
Okay,
Thank you.
on to, it's called old business, but I really call it existing business. We moved A to E. We have the Huntington Company. Mike Butirla, I see, is here to discuss the connection of 7 new lots and a possible 9 existing houses to the 4th sewer main. For those who were here from the Carriage Drive, for the Carriage Drive discussion, it's important to note that the economic metrics of this project are different in that this is a new development going in versus the existing developments, homes that exist on Carriage Drive. So effectively, the developer will be paying for the entirety of the infrastructure for these connections. So in case that kind of goes through your mind as we go through this discussion, I wanted to mention that. So Michael, why don't you give us an update? It sounds like you're in a position for approvals on this.
Mr. Chair, did you move an item on the agenda without a motion?
We did. I think you came in a little bit late for that, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
So, Michael, are you connected? Oh, there you are. You are muted, sir.
Hear me now?
Yeah. Loud and clear. No, we lost
You're muted again.
We had you for a minute.
Now?
Yes.
Yes.
It's like a commercial.
Yeah.
I think we've been before, this application has been before you guys. This might be the 3rd time but it's been before you several times. So we've got a proposed subdivision at 1143 Sasco Hill, which was the Jack property at the end of the road. Just as you go down Sasco Hill, you take a right, the property's on the left. If you keep going straight, you go down to the beach. We've got 7 proposed houses, and on the existing street between the country club and our project, there's a possibility to tie in another 9. The plans have been reviewed by your department, submitted the figures and what have you, and agreed to several changes that were requested by staff, and hopefully we could get a vote on it this evening.
Okay. I failed to mention that the Country Club of Fairfield that paid for the extension on Sasco Hill Road, we officially took title to that a week or so ago. I signed that document, and that, Chris, that was filed on record, correct?
Yes, it was filed
Okay.
yesterday.
So we officially own that connection that was put in. And so the motion in front of us tonight is to connect a new addition to that recently to the aforementioned Country Club of Fairfield extension.
Do Do we
Chris,
have any,
and has the department had a chance to review the final plans on this?
Yes, we did. So I have some comments and questions I'd like to sit down with Mike on internally and just go over before the transition, just to make any modifications. There's a couple modifications that I want to make on it. So.
Okay. So help me understand, can we go forward with a motion, or are those substantive
Yeah,
issues?
no, they're internal modifications that we can take care of at staff level. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's no flow capacity issues. The laterals have been reviewed. The engineering plans relative to the holding tanks and the pumps have been reviewed. And as Michael
Right.
said, this is probably his third trip around here. Are there any comments or questions from the commission? Okay. Is there a motion? We go to our go-to motion maker.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposal for 1143 Hasco Hill Road to connect 7 new lots to extend the sewer line from the Country Club of Fairfield, where it was in the road in the Country Club of Fairfield, to extend the connection to 7 new lots and an additional 9 lots, all with lateral connections for existing properties. This application subject to minor modifications from staff, which will occur within the next 2 weeks, I assume. This will be in effect for 2 years with the understanding that the permit will not be issued. If a permit is not issued within the 2-year period, the applicant will submit a request to the WPCA Commission for subsequent 2-year renewal. The signing of the building permit by the WPCA staff shall be subject to the payment of the I&I fee calculated at the current rate. And in addition, after the construction of this new pipe, the applicant will turn over the pipe and operation to the WPCA Commission for future, just leave it at that. Turn over the operation of the pipe to the commission.
Can I just amend that and just say ownership of the pipe? Because we don't want to operate the
Okay,
pipe.
ownership
I would
of the pipe.
change it to
Sorry.
ownership.
Yeah, and I would amend that to confirm the structural integrity and operational integrity of the infrastructure. The point being that we don't want to take control of something that has not been constructed appropriately. Is there a second? Second from Matt. All in favor? Joe, thank you. Unanimous. Michael, thank you. Appreciate your patience over the last few months.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Dennis, your timing's been
Thank
is excellent. Next point is consider an act on the agreement between the town of Fairfield and Wright Pierce for the design and engineering services for the upgrade to the wastewater treatment plant. And related to that is for the commission to consider an act on the funding for the design and engineering services in the approximate amount of $4.8 million. So this design and engineering services agreement, does anyone remember how old this is? Dennis, you might.
Yeah, we had provided an updated one, I think, in November of 2020.
Yeah.
It's the one you have still stands as accurate. I verified that today, actually.
Okay.
This has a date of October 21st, 2020 on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. That's still correct. That's the one that was approved. The one that was approved by the state. So we're not gonna, if we change it, it'd cause more problems than anything.
No.
So yeah.
No. Okay. So for those who were not on the commission at the time, I'm guessing 7 or 8 years ago, we went through a fairly exhaustive RFP process. I think we narrowed it down to 3 groups. We decided on Wright Pierce, and we're now in the process of funding the design component and moving forward with the upgrade of the plant. Comments or questions on the agreement? Okay. So, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for the commission to accept the agreement between the town of Fairfield and Wright Pierce for the design and engineering services for the upgrade to the wastewater treatment plant, plan dated October 21, 2020, which was approved by the state, and approve funding for the design and engineering services for said agreement up to $4.8 million.
There a second? Second from Christian. Comments, questions? All in favor? Aye. Terrific. Dennis, that was a record time for us tonight, wasn't it?
Well, I planned on attending the meeting, but I said I probably don't need to get in there right away. And
Yeah.
I can't believe you're this far along in the agenda. What can you
Yeah.
do that next time I'm there from the beginning?
We run a tight ship. Hey, can you stick around for a bit?
Yeah, of
And
course.
when we
Sure.
get to the projects, give us an update on the Sacred Heart project?
Yeah, sure. No
Okay,
problem.
we appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay,
Chairman.
to the Carriage Drive groups, thanks for your patience. Discussion with the Carriage Drive neighbors regarding the new policy relative to requesting sewer line extensions. Because of your thoughts and efforts, we now have a policy relative to these sorts of endeavors that was approved last month, and so that's the good news. And I understand that there are some questions, maybe some questions relative to that. And Joe, I'm going to let you take the lead on this, as this has been kind of your baby from the get-go.
Thank you. So I will entertain questions. I see there are a few of the neighbors from Carriage Drive on the call. And Chris, if you have anything to add, please feel free.
Sure.
Tim Warren, do you want to kind of go through those questions?
Sure.
Me too.
I missed my cue, but yeah, so we've had several discussions, the neighbors and I, and I spoke to Chris earlier today, and we understand that you guys are awaiting a proposal from us. Just that's the way these things kind of take place and tend to happen. But we had 3, maybe a couple additional questions just to sort of clarify what some of the boundaries were and what some of the expectations might be. So I'll just bullet point list them out for your discussion right now. And I would say to the neighborhood, if I'm missing anything or if anything else might be on your mind, please chime in. But the 3 main things I would say we have questions about are, the first thing is the time frame. Like if we were to commit to this, what's a reasonable time frame we could expect a sewer line to come in? And that has most to do with the fact that most of the systems on the street are aging quickly, if not already old. And I'm in the midst of a renovation myself. So where the gas line goes and some of the sort of strategic decisions will be impacted on whether or not we're updating the septic system, trying to ride it out a bit longer, or if we're scrapping it altogether. So we're curious about that time frame. We're also curious about the soil testing. I don't know if there's a significant cost associated with the soil test, and we just had a question about whether or not the town can pay for that, since it's it's going to be owned by the town, and it's on town property. So in our discussions as a neighborhood, we were just thinking, well, it seems like that would be a cost that the town might be accountable for versus us individually or collectively. And then the third question had to do with the bonding of the project, whether or not, say 4 out of the 5 households were to take part. What would become of the 5th household should they decide to join the sewer line in 5 years or 18 years or whatever? How would that retroactively affect the folks who come on in the beginning? And what would the arrangement be for that newcomer? So those are the 3 questions that if I think we got clarity on, we could give you that proposal. Take it away.
Okay, let me start, Tim, with item 2. I'm going to defer the time frame to people that know better than I. That would be Chris and Bill. Soil testing. The way we wrote the policy, there are a couple of non-starters as far as the commission goes. In other words, if we don't have enough houses on the street, and now we're saying we've got it in the policy, 4 houses are the minimum we would accept before we even talk about anything else in the policy. We don't have 4 houses or more, we're not going to take the project on. The second one is the soil contaminants. If we were talking about this 3 to 5 years ago, we probably wouldn't be having this discussion. But we've learned through experience now that soil contamination is a huge issue in this town, any place we put a shovel in the ground. So if we find that there are soil contaminants, again, we will make the decision not to go forward with the project because soil contaminants typically add significant costs to the project. And the third item is the capacity in the street, which doesn't affect you guys at all on this one. We have plenty of capacity to hook a pipe to another area. But those are the 3 overriding factors that we wrote in the policy before we even make a decision to go forward. So you've met 2 of the 3 in this particular with Carriage Drive. But if you guys do some testing, pay for the testing and do testing, and it turns there are contaminants, we will turn around and say we will not do the project. Hence, that is still a cost before we even start the project. That's the rationale as to why we have the soil contaminants being paid for by the people approaching the commission.
Yeah.
That makes sense to you as far as what our logic is to that?
Yeah, I mean, this is Joe Giederman. Yes, thanks, Joe. And we absolutely, I think, understand all 3 of those bullets. I guess the question to the committee with regards to that soil testing is we're testing an area that's town property, right? That's centrally located outside of all of our individual properties. And so
let me answer that quickly for you.
Sure.
We're testing an area that the town is committed to pay for a piece of a project that we would not be paying for had the neighbors not applied for it. Okay? So it's really, the onus is still on you. Even if it's town property, the onus is still on the homeowners before the project gets going, that we have a clean field to work in before we move forward with the project. And we offset that, just so you know, with what the town is willing to pay for the project once it gets going. We're offsetting for the neighbors part of the project cost to try to offset all of that, so it's not as a significant cost to you guys. But that's the logic behind it. I understand you're saying it's town property, but we will turn around and tell you we're not going to do the project at that point if there's enough contamination.
I personally just thought it would be a reasonable ask because again, it's a project where the town will own, right? So the town will own that infrastructure. We'll give up any right. We will we will pay for a portion of that and give up that right, right? We're paying for that infrastructure that the town's going to own forever.
Right,
So-
but we will not do, I'm telling you right now, we will not do, I would vote against that project if
Yeah.
there are contaminants in the street. You know, we won't even be doing the project. So when you say the town will own it, it won't be a project.
No, I
I will vote it down at that point if there are contaminants. It's part of the criteria for presenting that you have enough homeowners on the block, that we have enough capacity in the streets to connect, and three.
Right.
And
Contaminants.
if I could just add, I mean, the commitment also, it includes the 20% contingency, and then the policy says that the WPCA will pay anything above that. And so that's another reason why, I mean, if there's soil contamination, that project would go way above a 20% contingency. And so if there is no soil testing, then the WPCA would be on the hook for significant costs. So.
And then also part of that ownership from the town is the operation and maintenance of the line that the town will have for the lifespan of that line.
Yeah, it's not something that we necessarily want. And I should be clear that it's not so much the town, but it's the other 17,000 ratepayers who pay into the WPCA. So it's not the entirety of the town. So it's kind of the community that shares the sewer, and we're acting on their behalf. And I'm sure there's a fair number of those folks who would say, why are we paying anything? And I'm sure we'll hear some of that. You know, why, this is a direct benefit for the homeowners. Why are we sharing the cost? We're doing that because we think it's the right thing to do.
Well, then let me ask about just the other two. I mean, I don't want to cut anybody off in the neighborhood if there's comments, continued comments. But what about the time, and what about the possibility of somebody joining the party, so to speak, at a later time, 5-10 years down the road?
Okay, so that was your third question before, Tim, about the bonding you're talking about, basically?
Yeah, the bonding, but then also the third issue is just what kind of turnaround would be reasonable?
Okay, I'm going to so from a bonding point of view, we would expect any of the neighbors, Carriage Drive in this instance, who do not connect to this line will be paying the full bore. If they make their decision in 5 years or 10 years, they will be paying the same amount as the 4 people, let's assume, that are connecting to the line today. We will keep the cost will be consistent, and they will pay their 20-year portion of it. They will start 5 years from now and be paying out up to 25 years from now, their 20-year portion.
Understood. So say 4 neighbors take part, we would essentially each be paying 20%, and that additional 20% would be sort of in limbo until that 5th house decided
that is correct.
Got it.
And if another neighbor does not, that would be the price that you paid for the sewer line.
Okay.
Yeah, we have no knowledge that somebody else will join, unfortunately, the other 2 houses on the block. So the cost will be established with the number of people committing today, but then as those folks join, they will pay the full amount going forward. They don't get a free ride because they've decided to join later.
Right, but say they never decide to join. Hopefully my question makes sense. The 4 houses that did join, we'd have to divide the total cost by 4.
Right.
And then that person, the 5th person, would pay 20% after the fact.
They pay exactly what the first 4 people paid.
Got it. So then that would be 25% more money. I guess my question is, the neighbors who paid initially, we don't get a refund or a rebate, or do?
That is correct. Administratively, we decided that we would not provide refunds. We would just make it equitable that if somebody decided to join 6 months, a year later, he would not get a benefit because the other 4 residents. I mean, we're also anticipating these houses are going to turn over, and we don't want to create another administrative disaster and problem going forward up to the 20 years of the bond. We could track what we could track is our point. That's why we did it this way.
Okay.
And now the time frame, which was your first question, I need to defer that to somebody who will know. I've got Dennis, I've got Chris, and I got Bill on the phone or on the Zoom. So, Dennis?
I'm sorry, Joe, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is, how long will it take when we start from putting shovel in the ground, will it take to put that sewer line in? I thought it was like 800 feet. Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, rough numbers.
It is about 800 feet.
Yeah, so I mean, typically, the contractor can put in anywhere between, well, I've seen them put in as little as 10 feet a day and as much as 80 feet a day. So I would say that from start to finish, 6 to 8 weeks.
So let me just weigh in on that as well. So part of doing the soil borings is going to provide a little more information other than just the soil testing. We'll know if we have rock, if we're going to encounter rock. We'll know, some added costs that could be associated with this project before, we put a shovel in the ground. So, like Dennis just said, if they encounter rock, it's going to take, they could do 10 feet a day or 20 feet a day, as opposed to some contractors that could do 200 feet a day. So, it could range anywhere from a week to 2 weeks, depending on what they encounter. So the first step that we need to take is do these soil borings and soil testing to determine what's there, and whatnot. I'll just give you a little time frame as far as funding and so forth. So you're going to go ahead and do the soil borings, get those tested. That usually takes a week or 2 to get the results back. From there, you can provide back to the department. We can review them. We'll bring them to the commission. They can approve the soil conditions. From there, we have a project. Once we have a project, then we have to go for funding. The funding portion takes anywhere from, I would say, about 2 months, depending on when the boards fall and so forth. Then it has to go to the bonding commission. And then we would go out to RFP for a contractor. And then from there, you would determine what contractor you want to hire. And then from there, we can schedule the work. So, I mean, to give you a good anticipation of time, I would say probably a good 6 months. So if anybody else wants to weigh in on that, is more than welcome.
I think the soil analysis will give us, like you said, whether there's rock, whether there's water, and whether there's a contamination.
So since the project's being partially funded by the WPCA, it has to go through public procurement? Because I was going to say,
I believe so, because it's town fund, partial town funds. I believe it does have to go through RFP. I can find out about that, but yes, I believe it will.
Because I was going to say it could be significantly reduced if you didn't have to go that route and the homeowners can just select whatever contractor they wanted. But I figured because of especially the bonding and everything, it probably had to go through that process.
And the town would be on the hook for some portion of it, so I believe it has to go through the proper boards. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, that's really helpful. And any proposal we send can't be considered or approved until the next meeting a month from now, or can it? Can it possibly be considered sooner? I guess. Just in the interest of time and thinking about 6 months from now and the ground getting colder and things like that, there's no way to, like the approval process, even with this board, we'd have to wait till the next meeting. That's fair. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there's other things we can do. I will say, being involved in these discussions from the get-go, that we thought the splitting of the cost was a very generous accommodation, and probably even more so, terming it out over 20 years. Would, putting ourselves in your shoes, what would be kind of the best way to kind of break this up and make this a bit more economically manageable? It's tough because it sounds like there's only 4 homes. I mean, it would be a much easier discussion if there were 8 or 10 homes. Yeah, I think the policy is fair. We've committed on the paving, which was a major component of the expense, that the town would pay for that. But we don't necessarily have the town approval for that. So that may very well come back to the WPCA for reimbursement out of our funds.
Okay, but Tim, I think in answer to your question, the next steps are, we need a formal request from you guys. We've been doing everything verbally.
Right.
We need just a formal letter from you saying, yes, you're interested. If you guys are interested in going forward, which will start the process.
Yeah.
Is that correct,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I think a good faith commitment. We have spent a lot of time and effort on this because we're your neighbors. We're all in the same community, and but at some point in time, it's you kind of need to either commit or say that you're gonna go the other route, which is replace your septic systems.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's much more give and take here.
Well, I don't want to speak for the neighborhood, but I will speak for myself. And I'm really encouraged by all this. And I've been excited and a little surprised along the way. I think you guys are being flexible. And this is more of a possibility than I thought it might be when I started all this with the civil engineer and just sort of hoping for the best. So maybe that doesn't come across because we're getting into the nitty gritty here, but at least from my point of view, I'm optimistic that we can put something together, but we'll circle our wagons and we'll either get that proposal on your desk or we won't. But I can't think of anything else that we talked about seriously about with regard to skepticism or anything like that. So I have everything I need. But if you guys, anybody else on the call, and thank you for joining, by the way, neighbors. Sounds like last call for any thoughts. So
there's a question that came in the chat box here, and I'll just read it off. It's from Paul. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if Paul, he doesn't have audio. But it says, I'm still unclear about the bonding. The total bonding amount is divided by 5, with each house paying 20% of the total. The project requires at least 4 houses to sign on in order to proceed, and the 5th house may join later on at the same terms as the first 4. Is that correct?
my understanding is that, yeah, we would, if only 4 houses joined, we would pay 25% each. And instead of that money coming back to us, that would, an additional 25% of the cost would then be paid by a 5th homeowner. But I don't want to put words in your mouth, but just so I know, I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah, Tim, you just said it correctly. I will confirm what you just said. The 4 homeowners are going to pay 25%. The homeowners that are committing to doing it up front.
Yeah.
And at what point can would the 5th homeowner have to commit for them to go from 25 down to the 20?
They would never go back to 20.
I know
That's a good
retroactively.
question. That's a good question, Matt.
Like,
Yeah.
so if the 4 of them commit now, it's pre-design, it's going out for bid for construction. If at some point between design and construction, the 5th homeowner says, I want to get in.
Oh, we would compute that right away. If he's not years away, if he's within months of committing, I would make a proposal to divide it by 5.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm working under the assumption that 5th house isn't going to come in until year 10. But if
I guess that's the part that's still not sure.
Within a year, or if he's coming in before the project's even finished,
right,
I would
exactly.
go back and recalculate. I would make a proposal to go back and recalculate and make it 20%.
So
instead of
prior to the completion of construction.
Correct.
That's
I would, yes.
yeah.
I mean,
okay.
I'm going to be as fair as anybody and make that proposal.
Yeah,
I'm making
I would
that
agree with that.
Okay.
And I think it's up to us internal as a neighborhood to get on the same page and get some
Right.
clarity. So we can do that. I mean, we have to do that. So.
Okay. My other question is with respect to the so the homeowners, they picked their design contractor, and we mentioned, I think it's from a pre-approved list. Is that list already available anywhere for them?
Well,
For the engineers?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the engineer that they're using, DeAngelis, he is on the list.
Okay.
Just one other comment. If the 4 or 5 families can verbally or in writing commit to the committee, let's just say in the next week or so, is there anything more that we can do at this point, or do we need to sit tight to the next meeting?
I'm going to leave that up to you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, look, we approved the policy last month. So,
right.
You know, if the proposal from the homeowners is, you know, more or less consistent with that policy, then we can move forward to the soil. You know, I would say let's put together a project timeline of what needs to be done and get going.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Great.
You guys already have design plans completed for this, so it's just the soil testing in this particular instance, or?
I think we're at like 60-70%. We have some additional survey work to do to really dial in the details.
Okay.
But I've talked to Chris about that.
So just thinking logistically, if you were to go and get the soil testing done within the next couple of weeks, you should have the results back before the next meeting.
Right.
You can present those results as well as your official request, and then, you know, from there we can start moving forward.
Yeah, right. I mean, that needs to be done
regardless.
Number one anyway, right?
Yeah, I'm actually more I wouldn't say concerned, but focused on the borings because it's my understanding that the pipe may need to go fairly deep. And if that's the case, what the cost of putting a pipe, Chris, at one point in time, I'd heard a number of 16, 17 feet based in that
That
area.
was for the subdivision that they did. The original their proposal on their plan now, I believe, is 12 feet.
12,
So,
okay. All right.
Yeah.
I did speak to Cale Tallman. He came out and looked at it and gave us a preliminary quote for the paving and things like that. He priced it at 12 feet, but he did say he thought that was way too deep, and he thought we could all save a lot of money by going shallower. But that will bear out in the engineering and the boring. So yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question just
Sure.
for clarification? Once we have a letter from the homeowners and they've complied with the number of houses for, et cetera, the soil testing, does it have to come back to the commission?
No, I think
we have a policy. We now have a policy, and can't that be done by staff at that point?
Yeah, I think it can be done by staff, and I think it's going to need to go to out for legal. You know, there needs to be a legal document that governs this, so that can be put in motion as well. Chris, you had a question?
Yeah, one question that I have that I'm just thinking of. So, who's going to be responsible to get the quotes for the contractor? Are we going to put? Do we have that on the ownership for the residents, or are we as the town going to put an RFP out for work? Because that plays into the picture of who's once we get results back or we get quotes back, which we should get 3. We're going to need to know how much we're going to need to fund, and from there we'll have to split the funding.
I had envisioned that we would pay the funding and then secure it with a bond. Aren't
But
we?
who's going to get the quotes? The residents or the town?
I mean, the engineer can do it, right? The resident's engineer.
Right. I had it at
Well,
the.
I mean, that was my question. If it didn't have to follow public procurement, then yeah, the homeowners
Right.
don't have to wait 6 months
Right.
to get the whole process going. I mean, then it's just as long as the bond takes, and I guess plus a month if we have to approve the funding.
Would it maybe be something to consider to add to the proposal or the policy that we also have to provide 3 quotes as part of the, I don't know, I don't want to be inviting more work or
Yeah.
expense on my part, but also it might expedite things. So I'm a little torn about even thinking out loud about that. But
Well, I'm just thinking, I think we need to check with our purchasing department. I'll confirm this with our purchasing, what the procedure should be. I just don't want to overstep the bounds and if the residents need to get the quotes or the town will, because there's town funding involved.
Yeah, I think we suspect we know what the answer to that question is going to be, but to the extent we're bonding it, I think we have to go that route.
But if that's the case, then I mean, I would think we should probably publicly advertise it using like the town of Fairfield, which would probably be beneficial in terms of soliciting more quotes. I mean, if it's on the website the same way any procurement would be, it would get more eyes on it.
Right.
Well, and this is where the difference comes between our development hookup and the one on Sasko Hill that we were just talking about.
Exactly.
Where there, the contractor is putting in the whole cost of the whole thing. The
Yep.
town is inspecting it to make sure that it's okay,
Yep.
Right.
then taking over.
Yep. Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point. Yeah, look, I think it'd be faster to go that route, but to the extent we're paying for a good portion of it, I don't think we're going to get an option.
It's it's worth the wait.
I believe,
Yeah.
once town funds are involved, town charter takes over. I think that's where
Yeah.
everything.
Right.
And it's 2.5% money over 20 years, which is pretty terrific.
yeah.
Mm.
All right. Well, super helpful. I appreciate the time.
Okay, guys. Thanks for joining us.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. Do we think the town will pay for the paving, by the way?
I would assume they would, but you never know. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, we're moving on to the update on the current projects. Dennis, why don't we start with you on the Sacred Heart, and then we'll
Sure,
let you
sure,
go.
no problem. Actually, we have 3 current projects to update you on. We have the Sacred Heart Pump Station, the Force Main, and then the I&I Phase 3 project. So the Force Main project, we met with the DOT, Chris and myself and Bill and John Marsilio about 3 weeks ago. The DOT is planning to pave Route 59 in its entirety, be even beyond the limits of our current contract. So the town has an opportunity to save money, obviously, by removing the milling and the paving from the project. So all said and done, again, the contractor remobilized to the site 2 weeks ago. As of today, he has completed all of the paving and all of the curbing on the state highway, and he will be paving the Churchill Road portion of the project tomorrow. And next week, they will move over to final cleanup of the Jefferson Yard laydown area, and then they will be gone forever. So that project is, by next week, it'll be done. And in the end, it's going to be, I know Joe likes exact numbers, but I'm going to give you
1.9 million, right, Dennis?
I'm gonna give you rough numbers. This project was the bid number was about $2 million, and I would say I suspect that when we closed it out, it'll be about $150,000 less than the original bid amount. So
That's a headline.
I know you don't hear that very often, but
Can you repeat that, please, Dennis? No.
Sure. So that's that project. So that's, I mean, it's 99.5% completed. The pump station is, we started pouring concrete about 2 weeks ago. We have the footings poured. The frost walls will be poured this week, and then the top slab will be poured the following week. I talked to the contractor. We had a really long discussion on the site. We anticipate that the pump station will be put online for operation by July 1. It will not be 100% complete, but it will be operational for Sacred Heart. So, and then I anticipate site cleanup and things like that after that. So, but again, we're shooting. Actually, we're shooting for June, but I'm telling you July 1. That's the plan there.
Dennis,
90%.
can I interrupt you for a minute, Dennis?
Absolutely.
Chris Rogers, before you leave,
Yes.
can you send a letter to Sacred Heart and tell them on June 30th, they owe us about $800,000 because the project's complete?
Right.
Don't lose sight of that
exactly.
before you
So,
leave us, please.
I will not. So I will give you an
Thank you.
update, not to change the subject, but I'm just going to give you an update. We did collect the I&I for the new hockey rink. They have a balance that they owe us $71,000 because of the change in the I&I figure. They were going off the old figure, but now they owe us an extra $79,000, which he told me that he will get to me by Friday. So the original check that came in the other day was for $214,000. So
okay, so that was the 280 I&I.
Right,
the
correct.
$1 million for the pump was only, they had
Right.
only given us 200,000, right? Or something like that?
I did mention, he gave us 200,000 originally. They owe us an additional 300,000 at 50%, which we're at now, and I did mention it to him. He said he would pass it by their legal and get back to us. So they are aware that they owe us the additional 300,000, and then they owe us the balance upon completion. So.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Chris. And then, I mean, I guess I would say probably in mid-May it would be something that you'll actually be able to see something there if you want to take a tour, take a ride by. I mean, everything's been underground to date, but very, very, very challenging project for those of you that have been kept up to speed with it. It was just a very, very tough project, huh, Chris?
Yes.
You know,
Because of the rock, primarily?
Because of the rock, because of the soil, because of the water, because of Sacred Heart, because of underground conditions like a main electrical duct bank that we didn't know was there. But we're past all that.
The size of the site was a big player too. So we didn't have room to stockpile material and so forth. So.
Yep. So so that's that one. And then we had a pre-construction meeting, I want to say last Wednesday, with National Water Main. They're gearing up with submittals to start the phase 3 sewer rehab project. So I believe, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the contract was sent to them by Corinne already. They have a signed contract, right?
Yes, as far as I know, Corinne
Okay.
did send that.
Yeah, so I mean, that one's just starting, but that's a small project. It's it's $180,000 project, and I anticipate that'll be done in July as well. So, and those are the 3 projects on my end.
Then we'll be moving right into phase 4.
Correct. Yep, we're preparing the plans for phase 4 now. Yep. Chris, did I forget anything? Or I think I covered everything, right?
No, I think you've covered everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep, all the curbing was done on Route 59, and they were actually top dressing and seeding today on that, so.
Yeah, they did a pretty
Um,
decent job, actually. They did a good job. I'm happy with
Yeah.
it. State was happy.
Dennis, what's the next major step or hurdle on the plant design?
That would be once we have a signed and executed agreement, we will hire a surveyor. We will get the survey going, the borings going, and the soils testing going. So it's a lot of subcontractor work. A lot of coordination, a lot of on-site, on-hands type work initially, and then while that's all happening, what first thing we'll do is sit down with Bill and his staff and do sort of a refresh of the plan, because it is 3 years old or 4 years old. We'll just make sure the recommendation. I know some of the recommendations we made, Bill has already purchased, like for example, the banana blade mixers and the aeration tanks. Some of that was included in our design, but Bill's already purchased those. So we just kind of want to just bring everything up to 2021, and just start pressing forward from there.
Okay.
Dennis, let me ask this. Do we have to do another analysis on the flow to make sure that we can handle any additional flow capacity?
Well, if you remember, we increased your permitted capacity as part of the facilities plan, and that was a major hurdle to overcome with the state. So they've approved the capacity increase, and just for everyone here on this call, I didn't necessarily agree with that, but it was done. We did that with Joe Michelangelo. He wanted to make sure that you didn't have to go back for more flow, in the future. So we basically, when we did our flow projections, we added a contingency to it, which is not something that we typically do. But that is what we did, and the state approved a permitted capacity increase at your
And
plant.
Yeah, basically what it did was it increased our flow from 9 million to 9.4.
Yep.
And basically, as Dennis's study showed, and the study done 20 plus years ago by Stearns and Wheeler, a lot of our flow right now is I&I. So if we can remove just a little bit more of that I&I, we're never going to see the 9 million anyway.
Right, and just to expand on that, your flows 20 years ago are the same they are now, and you have more customers, but they're the same because you've been removing I&I. So we kind of anticipated that same trend moving forward.
Point.
Yeah.
Any comments, questions for Dennis
I think
before?
just one more comment, and I know we were talking about the treatment plant, and I think the next steps is going for the boards, and I think what their question is going to be how the WPCA wants to fund it. Do they want to bond for it, or do they want to use the fund balance? That I think is going to be the big question that probably the finance department's going to ask.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of competing thoughts on that. A couple of years ago, Joe and I went to a Board of Finance, and they pressed us hard to start spending some of our money. The flip side of that is the cash is kind of accounted for in the town's balance sheet, so it makes their bonding look better. So there's some other parties who will likely want to weigh in on that.
I just know that those are the questions I'm going to get.
Right.
Well, I think the answer is always bond it, and if we don't bond it, then we can use our cash. But we're bonding at like 2.5%, which with no repayment penalties.
And quite honestly, I'm hoping that some of this infrastructure money comes and that we can do the East Trunk Line and things of that nature.
Exactly, yeah. I suspect it will be another one of those, okay, if you have something that's shovel ready, it's available for grant money and financing. So I think it's imperative for us to get the plant ready and the East Trunk Line interceptor project ready, shovel ready.
exactly.
Okay, Dennis,
Right.
as always, we appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah, thanks. No problem. I'll see you guys next month. Chris, I will talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Chris and Bill, would you be so kind as to take us through the balance of the project?
Sure. So I'll give you an update. The Mill River Pump Station, the generator pad was poured, the meter pad was poured. The company, they were waiting for the better weather. Now we're waiting for the meter to be set. All the infrastructure is done and ready to go. Bill, I don't know if you want to give an update on the generator at the treatment plant.
The generator at the treatment plant, they built up the walls. They put the soil in the wall. They're getting ready to pour the slab. Once they pour the slab, they ran their gas line. Once they get that, they'll be able to bring the generator in. The generator's in Bridgeport. Well, I think it's in Stratford in the yard, at Quick Pick's yard. It's been sitting there. So as soon as they pour that slab, all of the change orders that they requested were done, because I don't know. There's another change order that's going to come through later. We'll talk about the Harding. I'm not sure if Matt's aware of this either, but the price of wires like tripled in the last 6 months. So there was a change order that had to be done for the generator. There was another set of wires that needed to be pulled. That quadrupled in price. It was like 24 grand, and that's been approved, and we're taking care of that. That's all set. But the hardening project is not even the hardening project. It's the microgrid project, where all the wire for the microgrid is just skyrocketed. Laura's jaw dropped when she saw the price. So she's working on that to get that down as low as we can get it. But that's where we are. Everything's approved for the generator. It's just a matter of getting Northeast to start doing the construction and getting the gas company in to run the gas line, the dedicated gas line from the street to the generator. And then we should be set to go on that one too. I think we're anticipating, well, both of these projects need to be done for the grants by June 30th.
Correct. Yeah.
I just touched on the hardening project. We sent the approvals that we voted on last month about the change order. So the finance has that. So they're going through that. In our meeting today with Mark and Joe, I spoke to Jared Schmidt, the finance director, asked me about the funding for that and what the town's portion would be. And this is, as we always said, would be a 50-50. So he's looking at doing that and getting the additional bonding authorization in place and getting all that wording properly with bond counsel, so that we can get the additional, whether it's going to be 1.4 or 1.9, depending on which way we go, set, and then moving forward with that. I know they had a big meeting the other day on site. I wasn't part of it just because, number one, I wasn't asked. Number two, I didn't need to be there. About the road work. So I know DPW and the contractor and engineering Laura, they were all there, and John Marsilio, deciding on how they were going to do the road work, whether they were going to do it at night, whether they were going to do 4 10-hour days. So they're coming up with a plan to do the road work at both ends of the facility.
There's a lot of coordination with this, because we have the buses that have to get through, the garbage trucks have to get to the transfer station, DPW needs to be able to get through. So essentially they have to have the road open at all times. So that's why they're trying to figure out and coordinate whether they do this work at night or, half the road and build up half the road and then do the other half. So there's a lot of coordination.
They're going to have to do that in
place.
lifts. They're going to have to do that in lifts, because some spots of that road is going to be 10 to 14 feet higher.
Yeah. So it's going to take a little bit of planning.
I think Dennis talked about Eastern Turnpike.
Yeah. I think we're on F.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
So I can
Do
give
we
you.
need to approve?
Yeah.
There's no incremental change order approvals needed for the hardening project, correct?
No, not at this
No.
time.
Okay.
No, I
great.
think we
There,
did. We
there
took
are
care
going to be, yeah, there are going to be more change orders, but I don't think they've been approved yet. So
I've learned to ask that every month after the last couple special meetings we had.
right. So the East Trunk Sewer relocation, we received the 3 RFPs, which we've talked about already. That project, once we get the funding for that, we're going to get we'll have the LEP go out and do the environmental work. From there, we're going to probably have to get this project rolling pretty soon. We did get a grant extension for this, but, you know, anticipating, you know, it's probably, you know, 3 months out by the time we get funding and the results back for the soil analysis. That puts us to, you know, August. So, you know, hopefully the contractor, it could go to bid, you know, fairly soon after that.
Well, why does that need to be sequential?
As far as what, funding?
Let's get moving on hiring the contractor for that, and as the soil testing comes back, that'll come in kind of real time. It's going to take us a number of months.
Right, we could go out to bid. It is bid ready. We can go out to bid. But with that being said, we won't know what the actual cost is going to be for the environmental portion. Let's just say we come across some contaminants.
We will.
And we don't know what the cost is going to be for remediation and disposal until that's tested.
Yeah,
wouldn't.
But it's guaranteed to come back that there's going to be we'll need remediation.
True. So, but we wouldn't know what we would need for funding until. So what you're saying is go for one round of funding at one time?
No, what I'm saying is we're gonna have to go for the funding when the bids come back from the RFP process anyways, and we'll include the remediation into with the bids coming back. Instead of trying to micromanage it, let me come from the point of, we've been sitting on this project for years and we got to move it forward. Right. So how do we move this forward so that we're kind of in the ground this year?
I think one or two ways. Either we wait for the soil analysis to come back and we incorporate it into the bid documents, or you go the way that you're saying, Mark, is go put it out to bid and use the soil analysis and things that come back as a change order. But, you know,
yeah,
I'm more inclined to put it out as one big package. And this way the contract knows
well,
exactly what he's got to do.
Bill, realistically, when is that? September?
Probably. Once you get all the funding and stuff.
Okay. And then,
you know, unless, you know, we get an infrastructure package where they say you have, you know, we'll fund it if you can get it ready, you know, in 6 weeks or whatever.
I mean, not pointing any fingers, but it was a snowstorm in December when I sat in on the RFPs for the Metro Center pipe, and we're still trying to get that contract signed. And
signed today.
Okay, so almost middle of April. So, so that's just how long things take.
No, this is obviously. This is going to be longer than that, because once those bids come back, those are going to be large bids. They're going to have to be gone through with a fine-tooth comb to make sure everything's covered on them.
Yeah, and it's going to be winter, and so we're realistically spring of next year, right?
I mean, the other timeline we can use as a reference was the Sacred Heart, the pump station. That went to bid in October, and we didn't break ground until April, May.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're talking 5, 6, 7 months before, you know, they fruitate.
Mark, I think though, even if you bid it today, I mean, best case, they'd be starting in like late September, early October, they'd get a month or two in, and then they'd have to probably shut down for the winter anyway. I think you were right
Yeah.
with the time frame. Regardless, it's spring of 2022.
I mean, there's certain portions of the project that they can work on during the winter. The section in Grasmere Avenue, they have to relocate the water mains above ground, and they won't let you work on that until April, between April and November. So, once they, because of the freeze thaw. So, that has to be coordinated with the quarry and so forth. So that section of Grasmere Avenue will have to wait until at least next spring before that can actually
How
take
long
place.
do you think that project is? Is that a year-long project?
I think they anticipated 18 months, but I think it might be longer than that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so that's that on the East Trunk. The status update on the Riverside Drive siphon. I don't have any update as far as last month. I believe what they came back with an additional cost estimate or an updated cost estimate. I think it's up to $750,000 right now. But I don't have an update from Time Bond on that. So, Bill, I don't know if you have any more on that.
No, I know. It was just that they were at 90% complete documents, and that's when they did the cost estimate, and that's when Bill Hurley and Laura wanted them to go back and see what other, things they could do, what other kind of construction maneuvers they could
had
do
to add-
try to lessen the impact of that.
Right. Yeah. So, item H, the WPCA outfall. So it went to bid. We had it went out to bid. We had two contractors come to the pre-construction meeting. There were several questions that came up at the meeting as far as dewatering and shoring and protecting this pipe during construction. Also, the question arose that if the full fix is around the whole pipe or if it's only on the top of the pipe. We did some test pits last fall, determined we got to the top of the pipe. All we could see was the top of the pipe because the groundwater, and it was infiltrating so fast into that hole, we couldn't keep up with it. The engineer was there, GHD. They went back and wrote a spec on the fix for this project. We do not feel that the fix is either number one, adequate, or if we are going to be spending a lot of money on dewatering and so forth. So we withdrew the bid. We're going to readdress this. Bill is working with the DEP to either give us the right to bypass into Pine Creek, where then we can put a camera in the line and figure out if the fix is, if there's a separation around the whole bottom of the pipe, or if there is, if the fix is only on the top of the pipe. Back in 2005, I'll just give you a little history on this. Back in 2005, they did an upgrade at the treatment plant, and they upgraded this line. On the record drawings, it said that the pipe was lined. So, and they did not say how far they went out with the liner, but it said it was lined. So the thought is that maybe this pipe is lined and we do not need to make this repair because, theoretically there's a liner in there. We wouldn't know until we camera this line. So that's why we withdrew the bid. We want to do some preliminary work and figure out what's going on with this before we actually spend, significant amount of money. If we do have to go in and do this proper fix that GHD did, we're probably looking at a cost of, upwards of $400,000, $500,000 for the dewatering and the actual repair, for the shoring and so forth on this property, on this pipe. So,
Joe, I see you looking there, a little
Chris,
confused about going to Pine Creek.
This was, Bill, this was the one that was estimated to be $37,000, right?
No.
No,
No.
No.
I don't even remember that number, but
it was.
you're looking like, we have there, back like Chris said, in 2005, when this upgrade was done, it's probably before that, when this portion was done. they built a second outfall pipe that goes to Pine Creek.
Oh,
That's
this is
where they
not the
would,
one that goes to Long Island Sound.
yes, this is, well, the one that goes to Long
So-
Island Sound is the one we think that there's a leak in. There
Right.
was
There's
a
a leak.
second line that was installed for
A bypass
construction
line.
that went to Pine Creek. And that came out of our outfall chamber after disinfection, after UV.
Right.
And then when this was all said and done, they steel plated that so you could never go back to Pine Creek. So we asked DEP if that was an option because of the issues we're having with the existing outfall pipe. They're looking at it right now.
Okay.
So
No, I'm pretty sure I'm right. I'll go back to the original notes about 3 or 4 years ago, estimated to be about 37,000.
You're right. It was a low number. Yeah.
So
It doesn't matter.
originally,
It doesn't matter.
no, but I could just give you a little history. So this originally went to bid back in 2012. It was one contractor bid on it. It came in at 130,000. We have a grant for
Right.
I believe it's 87,000. We used a certain portion of it, and I believe we have 62,000 left in that grant.
I think that's
which we
where
got an
Joe's
extension for.
37,000 is coming.
Yeah, this is it.
Right.
This is the same project. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's not waste
Yep.
time on it. I mean, it's going to be
Okay,
what it's going
all
to be.
So I'm just giving
But
you the background. So we
It's the
do
same
have
as my
67
siphons. I
or
didn't mention the
62,000
siphons for
left in it.
400,000. They're now 700,000. I might as well get it all out of
Right.
me right now.
I was worried that maybe your mute
No, I
button
didn't
was
miss it.
stuck.
What am I going to do?
Okay.
Okay.
So that's that project. So we did get the right to enter agreement finally, and it was approved by the town attorney to go in on this property and do this work. So that's the good portion of that project. The wetland crossing, the contract was signed today. We did get approval. There was some logistics in the contract that because the company is from New York, we had to get some legal ramifications on this document.
Some language had to be changed.
clarified. Language had to change exactly so that we could they could work in Connecticut. So the treatment plan upgrade, obviously, Wright Pierce did their presentation. The Upper East Trunk sewer relocation, we don't have any update on that. The microgrid, additional funding has been approved, so the project can now be completed. I think as Bill alluded to, the cost of the wire has significantly increased.
Yeah.
So
So I think
that's
there's going to be
probably
another change to that. So,
change order. Right.
Yeah. so
So
that's what Laura's
still
working on,
pending.
trying to get that as low as she can get it. Because the switch
Yeah.
gears are going to have to be that have been sitting for 2 years now are going to have to be re-inspected and recertified. And the wire, like I said, the wire that, they were supposed to order 2 years ago are probably, more than doubled in price.
Right. The pipe reduction in Stratfield Road, that has no update. We are going to, I believe, Bill, you can clarify this too. Part of this I&I phase 3, if we have money left over, we're going to clean and inspect those lines with part of this remaining, if we have additional funding remaining.
Yeah, if we can't do it in phase 3, we'll do it in phase 4.
Phase 4. The Umpqua Road 8-inch pipe crossing, they withdrew their application to planning and zoning. So as of right now, we have not heard anything from them. So that application for that that housing project is has been withdrawn from planning and zoning.
Chris,
Yes.
do we want to mention about that Project Hope, about that pump station on Uncle Road?
Yeah, I'll get to that one at the end. Let's
Okay.
let me just finish the rest of these, and then I'll give them the update on that. The corrosive pipe on the Mill River pump station, that's all been rectified, correct, Bill?
Yeah, basically with the dehumidifier, it doesn't seem like there's any continuation of that corrosion. So we're monitoring it, and it seems to be, we put the dehumidifier in it. We've taken the atmosphere and engineered it so that we don't see that there's any more corrosion. We may go in and scrape it and paint it, but right now it doesn't appear to be anything that needs to be addressed before maybe a pump station upgrade or something.
Okay. The phase three project, it was awarded to National Water Main. Like we said, Dennis alluded to, we had a pre-construction meeting to address any concerns. They did have a couple of questions and concerns regarding locations of some work that's on their contract. Nothing that, that they can't do, but some of the work needs to take place during dry weather. So right now we're in the wet season. Some of this work behind the Board of Ed per se is very wet, and they have to, it's hand work. They have to walk in there. So that stuff needs to take place during like in August, September, drier period. So, and then from there, the phase 4, once we go through the budget, that phase 4 is in the works now. So, so one item we didn't have on here, which we will add, there's a pump station on Umpqua Road. It's a private pump station on, it's actually on Umpqua Road and Durrell Drive and Paper Mill, right on the corner. It's been a private pump station for years. A private owner owned this property. Operation Hope just purchased it recently. So the owner now, Operation Hope, was never disclosed to them that this was a private pump station. We, in the past, have helped out with this pump station so that we didn't get a sewer bypass overflow. What happens is the pumps, or the old owner never maintained the pumps. We maintain our pump stations twice a week. They go in and clean them, maintain them, check them. This guy would do it every 2 years. So naturally, grease would build up and on the floats, and they would never work properly and so forth. So with that being said, they were never disclosed that this pump station was on their property. They thought that it was actually town-owned. They had a problem, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago. They sent an email out. We did a whole big research on this thing. It now sits with the town attorney who's researching this to determine whether it's town property or if it is Operation Hope. So the long and short of it is there's 11 houses that connect into this. 4 of them are owned by Operation Hope. Operation Hope does not feel that they should take the burden of the additional 7 houses that flow into this. I went through all the sewer commission minutes since 1990 all the way to current, and there's not one document in there that mentions any reference to the town owning this or maintaining it, or allowing the WPCA allowing these 7 houses to connect into this private pump station. So now Operation Hope doesn't feel that they should be required to maintain this pump station with these private houses flowing into it. So that's why it's with the town attorney right now to determine what the solution is and the best way to handle this. So.
Chris, are there any other privately owned pump stations? I've never heard of this.
No. Just this one.
What other questions should we be asking?
Well, if you look at Sasko Hill Road, those are all privately owned pump stations.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Theoretically, yeah. But this is actually like considered a pump station because it's got a wet well and pumps and so forth. So, the one on Sasko Hill, that Bill's alluding to, each owner has their own pump chamber and pumps out, and the pump chamber is on their private property. So, in this case here, everything flows gravity into this wet well and then gets pumped up into the town system. So, and it is on private property. The wet well is on private property. So it's with the town attorney now.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we do not want this pump station. We don't want to maintain it. It hasn't been maintained properly.
Well,
so.
someone's going to end up owning it and maintaining it. So how do we get a process in place to ascertain what it will cost to bring that up to a standard where if we were to own it, then that cost is being shared by someone other than us?
All right. So if we do own it, and we went back and forth on this, and we've done some research, and it has to be gone through an engineer. But we do have the option to run a gravity line out of the wet well through the school property and tie into an 8-inch line, which is about, I don't know, 800 feet away. So, you know, that would be the ultimate solution, because we wouldn't have to, you know, deal with the pump station and so forth. That's in the case that we do end up owning this. So, you know, we don't want to end up owning it, but
So Chris,
that's the ultimate solution.
Chris, so it sounds like the way you explained it, there are 17 houses that illegally connected to this private pump?
There's 7 houses. There's 11 total.
Okay,
Yep.
there are 7 houses that illegally connected to this pump, right?
Somewhere along the way, right. Somewhere along the way, they were allowed to connect into this line.
Why does that have anything to do with the town at all? I mean, private property, there are 7 houses of private property that are connected illegally to another pump that's privately held. Why is our town attorney involved in this? I don't understand. Yeah, it's a pump station, and, you know, we own pump stations in town, but why are we involved? It sounds like Operation Hope and those 7 homeowners need to come to an agreement of some kind. If they can't, then those 7 houses have to have some option of connecting to our sewer system, I would assume. No?
There is no option to connect into our system. The only option is by pumping this into gravity or into this force main.
I just don't see this as our problem yet.
Right.
I really don't. I mean, private, somehow they illegally connected to whatever they connected to.
Well,
That's their problem.
Well, it's probably illegal for research on permit approvals and that kind of stuff to find out who allowed this to happen at some point. So, I mean, theoretically, it should have come before the WPCA at some point.
Right. I mean, I think it's basically the Project Hope or whatever is got the ear of the administration. So.
Yeah.
And they're looking for someone to help and bail them out.
Who is it?
Yeah, I just, in my experience in these sorts of matters, the sooner a reasonable number gets put out there, the better. So if it's $1 million fix and there's still a seller who sold the property out there.
I just got it on my phone. Hang on, let me just open it. Yeah, Burr Street. I got it for a broken pole. Yep, no problem. Okay, thank you.
It's got a mark out.
Yep. Chris.
So more to come on that.
Thank you. You too. Yep.
Were there any discharges this month?
No.
Okay.
No. And I'm back to work.
Okay. There a motion to close?
Can I make a statement that for a commission to thank Chris for his services? I have a feeling this is his last meeting with us. Thank you for everything you've done.
I'll be back.
Thank you. You'll be back.
I appreciate working with all of you. So I'm not going anywhere. I'll be around.
But when is your official start date on your other job?
It's still to be determined.
TBT?
So,
okay.
You know, but I'll be filling in, you know, and so forth.
Sure.
So.
And we appreciate that. But thank you anyway for your service with us.
Thank you, Chris.
Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris, and congratulations.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Solid. Second?
Second.
Christian, second. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you very
Gentlemen,
much.
thanks for staying with us. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Yes.
Thanks for your.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, all.
Thank you.